Hi guys, how are you? I hope you're well. I am well myself. My name is Onyiha for those we haven't met, and today I have a word to share. And I had been planning to take the week off. Guess why? I didn't feel like I had a word, and then I had these moments yesterday where I was talking to God about this and just, telling him, I know you started this work, like this, just so much evidence, and I want you to just feel me, so I can go talk to your people, right? So I want that fresh word, that, that sweet word that your people will hear and be like, oh, sharing, calling others, come and hear, come and taste this water because it has been poured out. And as I was waiting, like, fill me up, God was like, I think God rolls his eyes at us sometimes like, I already told you what to do. What are you doing? And I've been wondering, what is it you want me to do? Like, what was it? What is it? Did I forget? Did I not say, the things I'm supposed to say? So this morning, right? So there's this thing, and I've said it before. I hope you guys have caught it because I see a lot of people practicing it. Doing normal things, okay? So your normal chores, go about doing your laundry, go do some dishes. You find that is the time you think most, right? Or it's like God is talking to you, or some message is loading, It's not when you're so intense on finding it. And so God was taking me through some things and showing me some people in my life that he let me grow, around, So I have told about this, all these stories in my family, and I was feeling like I've done it all, right? So what is it that could make a difference? What is it that could touch someone, And so it actually led to some sadness because God was reminding me of my aunt, my mom's younger sister. And, so she went away after she got her baby, And the man she eloped with, she eloped. The man she eloped with was so loving. Like, even as a kid, we could tell. And that's the whole point. Like, put a point there. Put a pin there, As a kid, there are things God exposed you to. There are things that God told you, in your moments together, because life is so spiritual that we do not know it at the time we are growing, or, during, just when we are doing life, but actually God called you for something, John 15:15, I'm hoping I'm right. Often I say 10:15, says, you did not choose me, I chose you, okay? He called you himself, for his work. So at the time you were being birthed, you already carried within you what you were supposed to do, okay? Your purpose on earth was already established. So you came at the right time, in the right family, for the right things. God placed you around the right people. God was using so many people as vessels, some of who you thought, this one has really failed in life. No wonder she lives here. But everything that happened to them, how their failures or their successes, where God placed them was so intentional for the next person who is you, okay? So God is using all these people who have gone ahead. Every generation had a job to do, and they did it. Our fourth generation in our family was supposed to get into marriages, okay? Because that is, or was supposed to work out this issue of the altars in our family, and they did. That is the amazing news that shocks me every time that I realize that everybody, whatever was meant to happen would happen, right? And it would seem like things are repeating, okay? The patterns that were supposed to repeat for us to stay shackled were repeating. Even in the fifth generation, some things have repeated, And God was very intentional that some things happen. And when we look with our physical eyes, we would think that these things didn't actually happen, okay? Like we failed. Oh, here is another batch of kids with all these kids from wedlock, I remember my firstborn was always so keen in breaking this generational curse, he calls it, of getting a child out of wedlock, and marrying early and all that, and would see him being so careful, he wasn't the one, you know. His assignment was quite different. But anyway, I'm talking about my aunt and how she eloped with this man. And from everything that she ever said, because I grew close to her, yeah, from everything that she ever said, she was happy. Okay, so she was so happy with this man. When they went away, she had a good time, living away from home. She used to live in Eldoret, yeah, where the man used to work. And when she came back, she was sad to the day she passed away. She would talk about all these things that happened, and the picture she created in my mind when she talked about her life in Eldoret, her neighbors, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful marriage. Okay, small, just beginning, but beautiful. She was peaceful. She was happy until she had to be brought back, because who said? Her mom, okay? Her mom was enforcing what the altars were saying, because she had no knowledge to know that this thing is actually speaking against my daughter. Some things that seem, good and normal to men are actually the worst thing, in God's sight. But because his hands are tied by what generation you are in, he will let some things happen. I hope you know what I mean when I say that. We said, yeah, when a covenant is made, yeah, God's hands are tied in a way, but his eyes are watching, okay? His eyes are following to see that what his word, says is followed up. So now, while all this, in all these generations, because he said he would reach the curse, because of idol worship, he would reach the curse up to the 3rd and 4th generation. Okay, now does that mean that he will not be working? He is still going to be working, but every time that people come to him with a legality, he'll be like, okay, my hands are tied. So what is this one person who is suffering supposed to do? Use knowledge. Through knowledge shall the just escape. Okay, now, so my aunt would come back very sad. She got a baby while she was at home, which is the norm in our family, right? And then she eloped with this man. She had all these hopes of starting, a life with him. And she conceived another while she was away with him. But the altars were so crazy. My grandma said that, she wasn't allowed to marry. And she said it was her, one of her brother's husbands that said that. Apparently it's not true. The thing that my grandma was doing is making an insurance for herself. Like, she was determined to keep her people close. And let me tell you, this would also happen in the family that I'm married to, on the daughters. Like, one of the daughters would be brought back the same way, yeah, like being warned, this is not good, your parents are not happy about this, and so she had to come back. Okay, now while she seemed to be thriving in this, perhaps because of what altars they were fighting, while she seemed to be like obedient and okay with that, I would see her children suffering, okay? And they would have to be taken care of by mostly the mom, my mom-in-law, and then me, okay? But like I said, I will not dwell there, but it's increasingly seems like I'll be mentioning some things, okay? So me coming into the family, my mom-in-law wants me to be married. She's fighting for it, okay? And even when I move away, because I know I cannot get married, yet, my husband has a lot to pursue, she still insists, like at the slightest chance, yeah, she was like, please, bring her in. And I was like, since I don't want to go back home, I will get married, and that's how I got married, but now everything now would point to I would think of the many times I would see my aunt so sad, even as a child, and then later she would be speaking these words of life to me, which is something my mom wasn't doing. And let me tell you, as I was growing up, I would think, how can I please my mom? How can I say things that will just make her heart happy? And one time I said to her, when I grow up, I want to be a single mother, and just, successful single mother. Well, I didn't say successful. I didn't know much about being successful, but I was like, yeah, I want to just, manage, So what I was borrowing from, because this was my mom, I thought, she would be so proud of me if I was a single mother, and perhaps the thing I would do different is move away from home, okay? But my mom stopped me right in my tracks and she told me, listen, that is the worst thing that could happen to someone. Do not pray for that, okay? And that shocked me and it stayed with me up to date, yeah? She told me you should desire to be married. It is good for two people to be together. But everything I'd ever had my mom say, you know, about how, like, when people are a couple, they take too long to make a decision. You know, some women are too dependent on the man's decision and ways, you know. So that was my mom. But whenever she said these things, I would think, surely that is how I should be, okay? But now God had really placed this woman in my life who is my auntie. And when I got married, I would run away sometimes, okay? Because that's what we do as Gikuyu girls. We are like, because of everything we ever saw, everything we ever heard, we are like, no, I'm not putting up with this, yeah? And sometimes the things you're going through are really tough, okay? So now you're doing life and you're thinking, okay, my husband doesn't have a job. I don't have a job. How can we survive like this? Or we are even fighting, yeah? And then you've tried a few things here and there. They're not working. And you feel like you're not even wanted in this family. There's some things that, you know, because we imagine, oh, the precious person I am, they should just love me, okay? So I'm making all these changes. I talk like this, you know. I cook like this. They should just want me, okay? And then perhaps even your cooking is criticized. You know, how you're using things, what you want as ingredients, and you're like, no, even the things I do at home, because like in my home, you are free to cook because you're producing really tasty meals, yeah, especially as we, because it was a practiced thing, yeah, I had cooked all my life. And so I would feel so criticized sometimes in this family, and I would feel, whenever things go wrong, I'm like, you know, first flight. My home was a few steps in the next block, yeah? So I would go home and I would say, I am going through the most, yeah? And my mom would say, you know, mimi sitakangi kusumbuliwa na mtu. That is Swahili to say, I don't like being bothered by anyone, you know? And so she would be like, you need to figure this thing out because me, I made my personal decisions, yeah? So you need to make your decisions, you know, whether it is to be single or married, you know? And that wasn't giving. And I'll tell you why it wasn't giving, you know. And so many times during the day I would find my aunt, because my aunt was sickly for many years, and I would tell her, you know, I felt like things are so difficult, we are not getting jobs, it's like this is not meant to be. And one time she was telling me about a friend of hers that is doing very well in marriage, and they eventually came to the point where they broke into a successful, you know, successful arena, like a successful years, yeah, like a successful part of their lives. Oh my God. Anyway, so she was telling me, I keep telling, you know, I kept talking to my friend and telling her to hang in there because marriage is not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. You're working something out, and eventually, as long as you are both willing, you will make it, okay? And so I would remember such stories, and you know, let me tell you, I would visit her so many times just for those talks, yeah? So God is placing somebody, you know, in your life as a young person, and I'll tell you why, okay? So I hope I remember all these things. So anyway, my aunt would speak life to me, life into my marriage, okay? Sometimes it wasn't so obvious what she was doing, but she would encourage me enough for the day, enough for me to go back. And when she was sick, you know, and eventually, right in my marriage, when you know, at first we were all living together, cooking together. Eventually, things changed in the family, and I would, you know, have this freedom to cook in my tiny house, yeah? Let me tell you, when we started, we were living in my husband's, you know, bachelor pad, and it was like just one room. In fact, one of the walls was metallic. It was makeshift. It was metallic, like metallic drums, yeah? And a tiny window cut out of that, yeah? So we were living there. There's a bed, there's a baby cot, there's a table, there's a seat that I had borrowed from people who kept things, you know, in my family. And there was a stove, a place to cook, and of course a place to put a TV that my husband used to take from the main house. It was tiny, okay? So being there, even when you're cooking for guests, let me tell you, I loved having guests just so I can show off the new thing I've learned, yeah? So even in those moments now, when I started cooking alone, I would take a lunch to my auntie and we would talk, yeah? And this lady would tell me things like, 1,000 days, you know, you feel like this is so much pressure, but 1,000 days are like one day to God. And let me tell you, this, my soul just needed these words, and I would just lap them up, yeah? And I would take them. And, you know, when she got really sick, and there were days, you know, we'd have even to come, you know, from very far to come take her to hospital at night. She had all these attacks, you know. I would make post and say, a woman who always breathes life into me is now very ill. I could not stand the injustice. I used to cry and pray for her, because this woman actually injected life into my marriage that otherwise looked dead, yeah? At this point, you know, we were having all these issues in my childbearing years. I was lazy.com, you guys. And you know, the way you live in Dandora is like people share a sink, yeah? I would put my dishes there and not get to cleaning them. And you know, other people would have a hard time because they need to use the same sink, right? So even my neighbors knew how horribly lazy I was, and it's not that I didn't care. I just couldn't raise myself. So sometimes I would be telling my husband, why don't you help me? Or it was a murky situation, yeah? So when we're there together, I'm like, why don't you do the dishes? And sometimes I'm thinking, I shouldn't do this, you know? Men are not supposed to do these things, you know? So eventually, and my God, let me tell you, when you're in those places, you feel guilt. At the same time, it's like you can't lift yourself. And because this room was right next to the sink, I would see my neighbors just come. Even in July, let me tell you, cold just freezes me in place, yeah? I would see in July, my neighbors are coming, they wash their dishes, they do their chores, yeah, they finish. My dishes are still there. So the guilt, the confusion, the wonder, like, I'm wondering what is wrong with me, okay? So I was fighting spiritual things that I knew nothing of, okay? But even when you think you're not moving, you are actually moving, okay? And so by telling you this truth, I want you to just know that God is watching you. He's reaching you with whatever words. And 1,000 days are like just one, okay? So God will turn things around in the eyes of the very people. He allows other people to be witnesses, okay? So even in your guilt, in that murky situation, He's there with you, okay? And so I remember the things that, you know, knit us together. I remember when, you know, my husband would, you know, bring this, I actually don't think, yeah, bring this music that we would play, music that we grew up with, love songs, reggae love songs. Let me tell you, God will reach you at the point where you are, okay? So it is not about, oh, being saved and going to church, no. It is the things that you're loving, that reggae music. There is a girl living in my neighborhood. If you know, you know, okay? So playing this wonderful reggae music, you know, it's like he's dedicating to me. And I would be like, this is life. Let me tell you. Cooking for my husband, it didn't matter how things were looking, but just having him, I knew the difference. Even when I ran away, I would be like, I know I will not be happy at home, okay? Look, and even my mom's reception, like she was so tired of me. But this woman wasn't, my auntie wasn't, and maybe God knew I would face all these challenges and want to run, and he kept giving me a word through my aunt, okay? And I'm not saying she was an angel, she had her faults too. And you know, at the point where we were going to Canada, yeah, so this is like so many years later, and let me tell you, despite her sickness, she would attend every one of my birthdays, my children's birthdays. When children are born, let me tell you, this woman was sickly, okay? Like, I see her pictures. I see pictures of her in, you know, all these family gatherings. I see pictures where we took together, because we would also celebrate every one of her birthdays, because her birthdays came in December 26th, yeah? So Boxing Day, the whole family for some reason would gather, okay? So there are very subtle things that God does in your life that just give you joy despite your sadness. And let me tell you, the price you think you're paying today, and you're going through this because of what you're fighting, okay? So even if you see other people doing well, you are not, because there are things that you're fighting. And when you're faithful and you break through that, because you're not fighting these things yourself, God is aiding you, okay? When you break through, you will see the difference, okay? And so these people went through worse, okay? This woman lost her, a marriage, and she would talk things that I would doubt even as a young person. She would say, like, if I ever married again, I would not, want children. And I would be like, I don't think marriage is what you should be thinking about, because you're very sick. You need to get better, okay? So now today, this morning, God, shows me that this woman desired marriage, wanted her marriage, cried over her marriage. Do you know who else did that? Dinah, okay, from the family of Jacob. This was the last born of Leah. She was a daughter, okay? When she was raped by this man Shechem, and this man came and spoke over her, he wanted to marry her, but these people ended up being killed because the brothers were, so angry that this happened, that this rape happened, okay? But this girl would be grieved, okay, because there was this chance of marriage, but now there wasn't. And as a person who went through such an experience, there wasn't going to come a guy who would marry her, okay? Who else went through that before her? The mother, okay? So even though she was married to this man, she could not have access to him. In fact, eventually, even though she had all these children, eventually she didn't have as much access to him. When Rachel came into her own, do you remember now the scene where Rachel sees Reuben bringing this mandrakes home that he found during the wheat harvesting season? And he was bringing this mandrakes, perhaps for the mom to use. I don't know. I'm liking the conversation under the last video I did, yeah? But, so this Leah was pining over her husband, but she could not get him, okay? And this thing breaks your heart. Now, my aunt was in the same position, pining for her husband, could not access. One, because things were said. And let me tell you, this man and her dad, and his dad, yeah, tried many times to have negotiations with my shosho, and the reason why they even came back was because my shosho's words were believed, okay? When she said that my daughter is not supposed to be married, she's supposed to come back, and she would not have a discussion over it. This man came and tried to negotiate. My aunt would call, her uncle, try to talk to Shosho. My grandma would not respond, okay? So these people had no choice but to go. Many times I would see this man come and just, hold his son. It is so clear still in my mind, desiring so much to be with his wife and his son. She's expecting and all of that. Eventually, he went away and he got married, okay? So, once you marry, it is tough, especially because the new woman who comes and knows you have sons, you have, another woman somewhere, she will keep this thing locked, okay? So it is hard even for you to reach out. But because you let go, you also want to, because this guy really loved marriage, he also wanted to commit to this thing and make it happen. But these things never leave you, because the sons, without even all of us knowing, were always desiring to know their father, okay? So it was difficult, it was painful. A lot of people suffer because of these altars, okay? But now God wants to set you free. Like I said, from John 15, yeah? You did not choose yourself. God called you for marriage. Now, do you remember as a kid when you used to have all these imaginations, or perhaps you were even playing your games, right? I'm talking to the ladies, yeah? And I'll tell you, ladies, that even the men had the same visions, okay? Do you remember wanting, that? I'm talking to the ladies because we are the ones who run away when we get the challenges. Because when we look around, we don't think other people have as many challenges as we do, okay? Now, there's some ladies who have gone into marriage having made the decision, I'm never leaving, I'm never packing. Those people have been prepared in a certain manner, or have come from a point where they had this inner knowledge that this is what I'm chosen for, it is what I will live for, okay? And sometimes they are not even prepared for what they will find there. They have declared all these things, you know, I'll be this kind of a wife, I'll be this kind of a daughter-in-law, a sister-in-law. They are set, you know, their face is set like a flint. No matter what I face, I will stay here, okay? It is not all of them, or it is not all of us, okay? And that is why I talk to you, because I have tested this. I have, you know, seen when things were difficult. I have seen myself as a very, very weak vessel that I was not even deserving. And sometimes I would remove myself from the place, you know, from my marriage, because I felt like, Sitoshi, you know, I'm not enough. I can't do this. And let me tell you, I was challenged in so many ways. Yeah, like there were people who would come into my house and find it dirty. Did I even like living in such conditions? I didn't, you know, I didn't like it when my house was dirty, you know. But I was there, you know, and this was my second pregnancy where I was really sick, yeah. And at some point, that's why I'm saying, despite, no matter what is happening, you're still moving even when you don't see it. So one time, because I'm a creative, okay, things will never stay the same with me there, okay? And let me tell you, I want you to listen to the people who praise you, because you are who you are. You are very well endowed, even when you can't see it yourself and you're feeling guilty about it. You are very well blessed and, you know, gifted, even when other people around you cannot see it, okay? So eventually, I'm doing these tiny businesses. I'm making cakes here, selling cakes outside, by the way, I was doing a lot, okay? So if my son doesn't have uniform, trust and believe, I will sell a cake and go buy him uniform, okay? And my husband was a bit challenged in this, but he was doing his thing still, yeah? And let me tell you, he wasn't getting, I don't know if he was getting as depressed as I was, but he was also making his moves, okay? But me, I want to be seen. I want to be, you know, I want to see things moving, okay? So, yeah, I'm pushing this thing, okay? So, one time I decided I'm changing how our house is set up, yeah? Like I told you, this one wall was semi-permanent, yeah, it was metallic sheets, okay? So I come up with a design and I'm like, I'm going to occupy this whole area. It's where people used to put up, it's where the clothes lines or what, yeah? So it's where people used to put their clothes up so they may dry. And I make up another place outside the gate where there was danger of people's clothes being stolen. And that happened a few times. But who am I? I'm bringing changes because I'm the new wife, okay? And let me tell you, as much as people hated it, that is what a new wife does. So you need to, the courage you need right now as you step into your marriage, it will be a sign to everyone that the new matriarch has come, okay? Because you're supposed to be strong and courageous and now getting what you want, because you've been chosen for this particular marriage, and for it to stand, it has to stand as God has instructed you. So you have these inner instructions even when you do not know, okay? So I decided I'll expand my house. It is a command, okay? This is what God tells this woman, or tells Jerusalem in Isaiah 54:2. Extend your tents, okay? Make the place of your dwelling wider. In some versions it says make an extension of your house, and that is what I would do. So you see, you're following you know, biblical principles even when you don't know it. And so I would do this, yeah. I would you know, I told my husband I want a toilet inside the house, and I want a sink inside the house, okay? I'm no longer going to be you know, cleaning for people, because I used to hate it when there's water on the corridor. Somebody showered, they didn't clean. Somebody went to the loo, they didn't, like, nobody is cleaning this loo because we are here, right? So it is, especially when I'm pregnant, it is so disgusting to me. So by this second baby that I'm carrying, I'm like, things have to change, okay? And so I'm getting into all these chamas where I raise, you know, some money, okay? And I'm like, I've grown. I want furniture. I want a fridge. I want all these things, okay? And there was a point I used to believe, as a young woman comes into her marriage, now it is then where we lived, where places, you know, like fridge is a luxury, okay? A cooker is a luxury. Things have really changed. Okay, so I wanted all these different things, and I was keen on getting them, yeah? So I designed my house in a way to expand it here. And let me tell you, this was rough because it's like even the littlest things you do will be challenged when you're fighting altars, okay? And you may wonder, what do altars have to do with anything? It is that as you occupy, there are people who want to stop that, okay? And people meaning all the spirits that occupy different vessels, okay? They're very invested in this. They want to see it break. They want to see it stop, okay? So even if it's not family, it will be neighbors. It will be all this, yeah? Remember how when Nehemiah was building and all these people wanted to stop him, okay? So your building will affect people even when you think it is a small thing, okay? So watch out. So anyway, so this wall that is metallic, I want to expand it, still stay metallic, but we want to like build a foundation, okay? So I call my brothers. One of my brothers is a mason, okay? And everybody comes, everybody shows up, yeah? So we are expanding to the whole area, and there's a way we could have a toilet and bathroom at the very end, and in between would be a kitchen, okay? And again, as people, you know, moved in and out of this place, I would, you know, take like an extra bedroom, okay? Now I'm serious, I'm building, okay? And I actually remember, like, one of my cousins would tell me, why don't you take some of the better houses? And I knew, like, there were boundaries I couldn't cross yet, okay? But anyway, I think they were speaking to my growth, which later I would think, oh yeah, why not, okay? So anyway, we are expanding, and like I said, I'm pregnant at this point, yeah? We're expanding, we put in a sink because of those women's charmers, yeah? I put in a sink, I put in nice open shelves, you know, a toilet and bathroom, you know. I'm beginning to think I should be cooking with gas. That was a foreign thing at the point where we were, okay? So a lot of people are doing well. These were common things to them. We are not used to this. So as you start, you're starting with a stove and all of that, yeah? A paraffin stove. Do you guys even know what that is? Anyway, so yeah, so at this point I'm expecting, okay? And okay, so I'm expanding in these ways. I want to do better, okay? And it takes even many days, yeah, as you're preparing yourselves. But as we were building, let me tell you, the neighbor on the other side that we shared a wall, and we are building our wall now because we are supposed to have our own wall, and they're supposed to have a wall too, okay? Insisted that we are encroaching, and they broke their toilet roof. And they went and reported us to the police. Let me tell you, my husband slept at the police station, okay? So everything you try to do will be challenged, okay? But we eventually did that. We eventually, you know, made it cuter. And, you know, somehow, due to charmers and loans here and loans there, we were able to furnish, okay? So not easily, but we did it. We didn't know, but we were actually graduating in some ways, okay? So we were working towards the betterment of our home, okay? We started far. When you marry young, when you marry before it's time, even though God may have chosen you guys to break some, you know, some chains, I'm telling you, you will go through the most. You will feel everything. And that is so you can relate, okay? Because your marriage is not only about you. It is a ministry. You're supposed to one day arise and help someone else through, okay? And so as Moses was, you know, leaving the Israelites, yeah, he would talk to the people, the Israelites, yeah? And he told them, we are reading from Deuteronomy 31, from verse 6, yeah? You can read from before. It is actually very satisfying, yeah? So from verse 6, it says, so be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid and do not panic before them. For the Lord your God will personally go ahead of you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you, okay? And I said this, you know, I'm sharing this scripture because for you to exist in another home, your mom-in-law will have to let you, okay? So that thing I was saying of she decreases or she moves away or something to accommodate the new person. And you're at this level where you're occupying these tents because you people did not, you know, fighting altars, okay? Because of the altars of your family, this has not been a thing, okay? Marriages have not been normal, but now you want a marriage, a lot of people will pay a price that you cannot even imagine, okay? So when I tell you that at some point my mom-in-law moved, decided to go into the country, which was so conflicting for so many people, and for this girl to come, and occupy your home, like a lot of people were telling her, you shouldn't do this, okay? So like whenever I saw her, we would talk and she would tell me a lot of people are not happy about this. Did I even understand? I was wondering, why are you telling me? Am I supposed to feel guilty? Because my position right now is not so easy. I'm fighting all these things. I'm having to endure all these things. But let me tell you, it is not easy for her. Neither is it for you, okay? But God is working something out for the future, okay? For everybody who is concerned, even the ones who are hating you, you're breaking chains even when you don't know it, okay? And because a lot of generations may be mixed in a place where you're fighting marital altars, you will find that you have all these two kids around you, some older people discouraging you, discussing you, fighting you, and you cannot see clear lines. All the lines are blurred. You don't know where you're supposed to be at, but it's just about keeping on moving, okay? So like I'm marking my territory, I'm expanding where I am at, okay? So then Moses called Joshua, this is verse 7, and as all Israel watched, he said to him, be strong and courageous, for you will lead these people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors he would give them. You are the one who will divide, you will divide it among them as their grants of land. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord will personally go ahead of you. He will be with you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you, okay? And so this is the word for the young women today who are in a situation where you're like, I do not know how I got in here. I got a baby. We decided to just move in. These people, the parents had some property, and so we just started. I don't even think this is serious. And now because it is very difficult, I think I should move. And the way we fight, we say, we tell the husband, I still, have a bed at home, at my mom's, knowing very well that if you went back home, things would not be the same. You've already experienced. It's like how I think about coming abroad, Once you come, once you've broken through those barriers, even if you go back, things will never be the same again, okay? You will be your mind will change, okay? There's a place that has broken inside of you. There's a light that has come in. You will never be able to unsee and feel and experience that, okay? So just know that your position in marriage, or where your marriage is standing, what kind of a marriage you have and what you're experiencing in that marriage is because of what is in the family, okay? So we're going to delve into this some more. And I have mentioned before that you don't just marry a man, you marry the status of his family, okay? The spiritual status of his family, okay? So it means you could be fighting, altars that you never, expected. And you're leaving home where you thought it was so bad. My sisters and cousins haven't married, and the ones who have married, it ended up like this and like that. And you do not know that you're living that story, okay? You're about to experience what the ones before you have gone through. Let me tell you, the amount of respect you will have for them. Once you're done, once you come to another stage, it will take you very long to see it. But God wants you to know bright and early. You know why? God is calling you to affirm your marriage, to stand strong, to be courageous, to stand and fight for it, because your marriage is very much needed, okay? God wants to restore an age where marriages are thriving, marriages are strong, because he wants to establish a godly offspring. Let me tell you, what has been happening? And what we've been allowing even in the society, all these things that you see, and we even begin to normalize some, those are not godly. And let me tell you, when the ungodly are ruling the world, there is bound to be lack of continuity, okay? And that is why there will come a time where we are operating with just robots, okay? The children are not enough, you know, like what is happening here. Like I told you that Mo was telling me, there were not enough population or working population, and they could predict that in the coming years, if the trend is like how it is, where children are not being born, you know, people are woke in a way, they're like, I cannot go through this, I cannot, you know, go through this slavery as marriage was considered. You've suffered too much as a woman, or you've seen your mom suffers too much, and you're like, children out, marriage out, I cannot, I need a soft life, okay? And you find that as you grow older, you're like, I have some regrets, okay? So we are living, we are living in a world where we see all this. We see the ones who are regretting. We see the ones who held on, you know, despite a lot of difficulties. There should not be a level where you you conform to abuse, okay? So abuse sometimes causes separation, yeah? And so people can get very easy, can get into abuse very, very easily. You could be the one abusing your husband and living with that guilt, yeah? Because when it comes to you getting so frustrated, you even want to fight, not, settling. So you are all over the place and you do not know who to run to. God is asking you to be strong and courageous. Now come, let us reason together, because this gift he has given you, he was very intentional with. He wants you to stand and be strong. As a woman, he wants you to step into your shoes and own it, okay? Because even the very things that are threatening your existence in this marriage, that are threatening this very institution, he's gonna fight them, and he's gonna show you what was wrong, even the people that were sent to break this, yeah? Because let me tell you, because of the altars, because of the familiar spirits, yeah? A lot of people will be looking at you and they get jealous. Where do you think the jealous comes from? Okay, the devil is speaking into people's ears, yeah? And jealousy is just one step from witchcraft. So many times you'll be hidden in that same poverty, and you're thinking, God, we are suffering, I can't take this, I want to be like so and so. It will be a long time, even if you live, to attain that status of so and so. Do you know why? Because you're fighting the same issues, yeah? Now, if you leave and become single, you'll be fighting different kind of altars still in the same family, okay? Because as I said, all these things come as a package, okay? So whoever gets a marriage will struggle this way, okay, until they leave it or until they break through, okay? But there's a set time for you to break through. In the meantime, you build with so much pain. It's not easy, and that is why we see all these characters in the Bible. We see all these things that, the people who came before us did, okay? So this is actually a manual. When you think you don't have a manual, you have the Bible, okay? But none of us even know about how to get into this when you're young. We want to live freely. In fact, some people, by getting married, you want to leave what you've been seeing in your father's house. You're like, I'm running away, okay? So that's errand to the shop ends up being you getting married, and then later you're like, no, I don't like it. I don't like being all this. I don't like being the mom here, I want to be a daughter again. But once you've left, you'll never be accepted back. You'll never be able to fit in, Now, some parents have seen kids suffer, and when you come back, they're like, I will support my daughter. Maybe that's the chance you get, and your parents are willing to pay, school fees for you to take you to an institution of higher learning, even when you had refused and ran away to get married. Trust me, we are all fighting different things. But if God has called you to this particular marriage, which is what I want to talk to you guys about, or I'm talking to you guys about, he wills for you to be there, yeah? A lot of people who are your witnesses think that you're doing well, wish that they had just half of what you have, and this is not to give you pressure, but to tell you you're on the right tracks. Keep going, because once you've gotten all this, over all these hurdles, God is going to bless you and take you to the next level. Will the next level be easy? But he is faithful to see that in everything that you do, in everything that you, in everything you put your hands into, it will expand, yeah, and increase, and it will be beautiful in your sight at the end of it, okay? So you get approved by the process you go through, and that you stand. There will be mistakes. There will be so many times that you fail, but if you stand to the very end, you will have a crown, okay? So I'll see you on the next one. We are still on this. There's so much God wants you to learn and be and do, okay? So walk in confidence if you're in a marriage, and see what God will do, okay? Bye-bye.